Broadcasting from the heart of Soviet Kazakhstan.
What will the state think of next?
On tape. Welcome to the Great White North.
To the Great White North, take off. It's a beauty way to go. Take off to the Great White North.
It's better red than dead with Redmond Weissenberger.
Welcome, kind listeners. It is Monday, March 31st, 2014, and this is your host, Redmond Weissenberger, Executive Director of the Mises Institute of Canada and Managing Editor for the Dollar Vigilante. Dollar Vigilante for all your expatriation needs. Well, joining us today is Tim Moen. Tim is the Libertarian candidate for the federal riding of Fort McMurray, Athabasca. Welcome, Tim.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Been a fan of Mises for a long time.
Oh yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, Auburn's been doing it for about 30 years, but we've had some great growth up here in Canada. But more importantly, I wanted to hear all about Tim Moen and what's he doing, being this wild and crazy libertarian up in Fort McMurray, Alberta. Because I guess you a little while ago. I guess stepping back, so when did you come to sort of libertarian ideas and whatnot? And then we'll sort of come to how you got into sort of the public eye and whatnot.
Sure. Yeah, I was probably convinced of libertarian ideas about a decade ago. Penn Jillette was probably a big influence there. Mm-hmm. I was actually starting to question every belief I had in life because I'd been disabused of my belief in the religion of my childhood, and then I was kind of disillusioned. I was like, well, how many other lies have I been told? Mm-hmm. And I started kind of examining all my beliefs and listening to alternative arguments and that kind of critiqued them, and I found a lot of my beliefs were wanting, and the belief in the state and the use of force against other people to get your way was not one that was congruent with ethics, morality, or reality, really. So I was convinced by the arguments about a decade ago. That's how I came to libertarianism.
Yeah, Penn Jillette is particularly good. I didn't realize he was. I mean, you sort of realize it when you think back and you look at his magic shows and the way he was saying, "I'm going to show you exactly how these sort of old tricks are." Like we need to. Back in the days, that was their whole shtick, right? They were taking these classic magic tricks and saying, "Well, come on, guys! Like you've been doing these things for 100 years. Why don't you do something new? You sort of try to break up the monopoly of the magicians' union."
Yeah,
I guess.
And he's very compelling communicator, and he presented the ideas to me in a way that I could understand. And I guess that's kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing here today. I'm trying to present these ideas in a way that people understand. I've always been kind of a skeptic of political action and running for office as a way of creating positive social change. And in my early days as a libertarian, I wanted to get into government and dissolve it and break it down, right?
Yeah.
That's when I thought government was over there in Ottawa or over there in Washington, D.C. or in the Capitol buildings or whatever.
Right.
It was, I didn't realize until later on that government actually doesn't even fundamentally exist. If it exists in the hearts and minds of men and women across the land. And so, my activism changed from trying to get the reins of power and destroying Leviathan to understanding that I need to communicate the message with people and connect with their hearts and minds. And so, and then it wasn't until recently that, some people approached me and said, why don't you consider running for office? And I put up my same old arguments again. While political action isn't going to do anything, it's not going to create any change. What we need to do is connect with people and communicate the message. And they simply pointed out to me that, look, Ron Paul did some great things for liberty in the States. He communicated the message, and he did it for a political campaign. His strength wasn't that he was going to get elected as president. His strength was that he was a great communicator, and he was on a stage that people were looking at. And I was convinced by that okay, here's a stage. It's kabuki theater.
Yeah.
And there's all these actors up there, imagining that they're presenting real life to their the audience. And like it or not, that's where the audience is looking. They're not looking off to the side where us liberty lovers tend to be on the fringes. They're looking up on that stage. So I need to get up on the stage and tell people that there's a wizard behind this curtain and that it's all kabuki theater, And so that's kind of the way I look at it. But yeah, so that's how I got into this politics. A few months ago, someone convinced me that I should put my name forward and that they'd support me, and I've been getting a tremendous amount of support from other people who see value in this type of activism. And I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for that. I mean, if there wasn't people supporting me, Zach Young came up here, moved up here at his own expense to support my campaign, and there's been an enormous number of people that have been helping behind the scenes. And man, without that, this would not be as effective as it is, and it wouldn't be as fun as it is, and it would, I definitely would have second thoughts about doing this.
Well, certainly, I mean, there's guys like, I think Walter Block and Stefan Molyneux, we're going to have a debate at one point about, the effectiveness of political action. A guy like Stefan Molyneux, of course, will say, don't even bother getting involved. Whereas, I think I would agree with you to some point that certainly there are a lot of eyes focused on these ideas, or on these events known as elections, right? And it is kind of true. I was, of course, also involved in an election myself. I ran for city council here in Toronto in 2010, and I'm considering running again. But it was hilarious, like I would sit up there with the debates, and everybody, all the various candidates were just trying their best to say absolutely nothing, and be everything to everybody. Yeah. And I think that's it, with modern politics, which just seems to be, how do we divide up the spoils of the welfare state? You don't want to have any principles, but at the same time, I think that people are yearning for these things, and that's why I think you're probably seeing the response you're having is that people are actually interested in principles. Would you tend to agree with that?
I really do agree with it, and I believed that before I started this campaign, and that belief has been confirmed with a ton of evidence. I've been getting a ton of messages and support, and people saying, finally, someone's saying the truth, not just telling us what we want to hear.
Right.
Finally, someone's standing up for something. A lot of people are saying, we've never heard of libertarianism before. This is awesome. This is amazing. This is exactly what I've been feeling all these years, and I've never had a name for it before.
Right.
And thank you for introducing me to this. So, just in the course of a month or two, I've had more of an effect on people and communicating this message, and I've had in the previous years of trying to blog and do videos and do different things online, telling people why they're wrong online and stuff like that. People are being introduced to this message. So, and I do really get a sense that people are hungry for this message. People are sick and tired of status quo politics. They're sick and tired of being, being bribed, and they're sick and tired of being fear-mongered into voting. And they're realizing that it's all BS, and especially here in Alberta, because the Progressive Conservative Party has rapidly fallen out of favor with people. They're disillusioned with all the bills Redford and her government's been stacking up, and the infringement on property rights and stuff like that, the legislation that they've been introducing. People are tired of it, and they really want to change. And I get the sense that they're really frustrated. They don't know what to do, where to go. They're looking for, they're looking for something else. They know that it's not going to be some hero politician that's going to save them. That something fundamentally has to change, and that change, I'm ready to introduce to them is their fundamental belief system, that in the state. Maybe they ought to question that.
Well, I think that's the key, right? Because, you have to come back to the point that, what you're really saying is that people need to be self-reliant. They need to look to themselves and figure out, what they want, what they need, how they're going to get it, right. And stop being the children of the nanny state, right? And that's the issue, is that no matter which politician is put up there in front of you, whether it's, the progressive conservatives or the liberals or, potentially even Wild Rose, I guess, out west. At the same time, what they're still going to do is they're still going to manage the welfare state and manage the nanny state and essentially try to manage the people. And I think that's the key, is that people need to understand that if you're going to go this way, you need to, really these politicians should be irrelevant, largely.
Yeah. And, that message, I like to say that the people in my community here in Fort McMurray are libertarians that just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
Because think about it. I mean, the mainstream media paints this place out to be Mordor, paints it out to have all this vice and like it's a drug den and it's prostitution and it's crime and it's all this stuff, right? And people come here despite hearing this message. They pick up their lives from all across Canada and all across the world. This is a very multicultural place. I mean, people come here from all over the world to make a better life for themselves and their family. They're here to work, and they're here to develop a resource that people need in this world to pick themselves up out of the dirt and make something of themselves. And so these are people that are self-reliant. They're fully accountable. They're entrepreneurs, and they're doing something to better their lives, and they raise everyone up around them. And so it goes to show you, and out of this kind of libertarian type philosophy and value system, we have one of the most, in fact, I think it is the most giving, the most charitable per capita community anywhere in Canada. Mm-hmm. And that's because of the type of people that come here and the type of wealth that's generated here because of it. So this place is ready for the message of libertarianism. I mean, people, I think when they hear it, it resonates with them. They get it. Yeah, we never ask the government for anything. And why is it that all the money that we generate here through the sweat of our brow by digging in the dirt here goes over to have-not provinces? Why do we have all these equalization payments heading out there? Like, why does our tax money get taken out of the community so that we can't even, build a seniors home here or hospitals here that we need
to actually improve their own life, their own quality of life? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading a Fraser Institute study that said something like, if you're in if your household makes over $200,000 a year, which is a fairly typical household up here, you're paying over $30,000 into the healthcare system, or the disease care system, as I like to call it.
Yeah, for sure.
And what we get up here for healthcare is atrocious. I mean, it's long lineups, and it's kind of like reminds me of the stale bread lines of the Soviet Union, right? Where people are saying, well, just be thankful we don't live in a capitalist society where the state doesn't even provide bread for their citizens.
Well, yeah. I mean, and here's the thing. Yeah, let me just cut in there because, if we had essentially a free market in healthcare, what you would have really quickly seen is that people would be moving to Fort McMurray. They're generating all this income, and guess what would follow? Doctors, people who want to provide these services would quickly, because they would see there's all this money being generated. I'm going to move to Fort McMurray and set up shop because I can make a profit. I can better my life by providing the good services that these people need. But instead, we have to sit and wait till the government gets around to figuring out, well, wait a second, we only allow 20 new doctors this year, and we have to send them all to Edmonton and Calgary. We can't send any to, Fort McMurray. It's ludicrous.
As a whole, podcast in and of itself. I'm a paramedic. I've been a paramedic my whole adult life, and so, I'm very familiar with the ways that the state restrains my ability to provide service to the people in my community,
right?
And it's really frustrating. I fought this health system a number of times over the years, but I mean, we have all this resource here. We have good people here, and there's no reason why we can't have, an Athens of the North right here. There's enough wealth and the right type of people here that we can create an amazing community. And not only are we providing this much needed resource for the world, we are, out of this community, people are concerned about the environment. I mean, they're concerned about stewardship, and they're concerned about air quality and all these things. There's great technologies coming out of this community that are going to go to benefit the world. Reclamation technologies, restoring, devastated areas back to a pristine state of nature. Air quality control management, like monitoring, monitoring river levels and toxicity of pollutants and different things like that. Not to mention, we've got an eco entrepreneur who's creating these greenhouses, these amazing greenhouses that are powered off the methane gases generated by landfills. And this type of technology is in the research and development stage, along with small gasifiers and all these other things. And this type of technology is going to be able to go to communities across the northern hemisphere or cold climates, and communities are going to be able to grow their own food because of the technology that's coming out of here. They're going to be able to power their communities with these efficient and eco-friendly systems that are coming out of here. And that wouldn't be possible if it weren't for the wealth, if it weren't for the development of the oil sands. So, even if you're an environmentalist and you're looking to a greener future and you're looking to this, dilithium crystals or whatever are going to power the world. I mean, where do you think those are going to be developed? Those are going to be developed in this community.
Well, sort of.
Here.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of people miss that. It's they're sort of putting the chicken before the egg, right? I mean, if you want to have the ability to develop new technology, if you want to have the ability to innovate in all these sorts of different things, you need to get away from subsistence living. And a lot of the recommendations that environmentalists are promoting are essentially going to put people back into the subsistence lifestyle or keep people in subsistence lifestyle. Like, if you're a sort of a peasant farmer who's living off the land, you're not going to be researching solar panels. You're not going to be building windmills. I mean, not that I believe that those things work anyways, but, but you're not going to be researching the latest amounts of technology. You need the division of labor. You need wealth to be produced. You need energy that's clean and abundant. And these things don't come from anything. And this sort of draws me to something that happened with you, and sort of another thing that put you on the stage was speaking of environmentalists, or so-called environmentalists, critiquing the oil sands and the good work you guys do there. Of course, you became sort of famous for critiquing Neil Young. So tell me about this Neil Young run-in that you had.
Yeah, well, I mean, Neil Young's production company contacted me to do some filming. I've been kind of known as being good at aerial filming, hanging out of the side of a helicopter, basically, and getting some shots, because no one else seems to be crazy enough to do it, I guess.
Nice.
So his production company contacted me and kind of wanted, my advice and some consultation, wanted me to do some shots out of the chopper of this kind of badass car that Neil Young has called the Link Volt. It's a hybridized Lincoln Continental that he spent, $1 million and a bunch of hours creating. And so, it was kind of pitched to me as here's Neil Young creating this, cleaner energy thing, and you can still be cool while being environmentally friendly. And I thought, okay, that's cool. That kind of jives with my, how I view my community. Yeah, we're producing new technology, greener technology. We're generating the wealth. And yeah, I get that Neil's technology isn't very eco-friendly because it takes a fleet of vehicles and he has to truck the fuel for it from across the country to his place with a diesel burning truck. I get that. But it's a step in the right direction in a way, because if we're going to get cleaner technology, it's going to take people like Neil and innovators, that are interested in that kind of energy to produce it, and it's going to be finicky at first. And so I thought, great, this is what we're doing up here. Great model, sustainable. This Eco Carnival was in town. It had a solar-powered stage. I thought he could get up there and strum a song on a solar-powered stage, and I thought it was kind of interesting to show, where we're at now with the oil sands and where we could be going with this kind of, cleaner technology. That's kind of the direction we're heading. And so that's kind of what I was thinking when I was filming this.
Right.
And then he came out later, and when I suggested that he go to the Sustainable Carnival, and I suggested that he talk to this person or that person and all these green things that are going on in the community, that wasn't on the agenda. He
of course
didn't
not.
want to film that stuff. There was no time for that. He needed to go find, as one lady out in one of our Aboriginal communities pointed out, she said he was looking for dead and dying Indians and animals when he came out to our community. And that's kind of what he was doing. He was focused on, that. And then when he came out with a week later in D.C. and compared Fort McMurray to Hiroshima, said we're killing people up here, that was kind of enough. My last straw. I had to say something. So I wrote an article. The Huffington Post, as a result of that article, gave me a blog spot, and I got a lot of hits on that. I was on the Sun News media, and I kind of became a bit of a media darling in my community, and I was kind of seen as standing up for my community in the oil sands industry here. And so that's kind of how I got on the map with Neil Young. And since then, actually, I've had environmentalists. My thinking is I want to be part of these films, and I want to be helpful and be a good businessman and provide them a good service and to let them tell the story they want. But I also want to provide them with a little bit of cognitive dissonance and point out that their narrative isn't as open and shut as they think it is, and that there's actually another story up here that they wouldn't have expected.
Yeah.
And so that's been actually fairly fruitful. The last group of environmentalists I filmed with were kind of set back, and they kind of had to rethink their whole project because of a lot of the information that I exposed them to and the people that I introduced them to.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, and here's the thing, too, is that they need to realize that, 100 years ago, certainly we were far less efficient, right? I mean, when you go back 100 years, most transportation, say, was done by horse, right? If you're actually interested in using less energy and using less farmland, then you should be very happy that we've moved from horse transportation to car transportation. Things like wind. Wind is actually an incredibly inefficient power source. And, if you look at the amount of land and the amount of energy and the amount of land and the amount of resources that need to go into, say, building, a large-scale wind farm, and you compare it to the amount of energy and the amount of resources that go into producing, the amount of oil or natural gas or other so-called fossil fuels, hands down, the fossil fuels are the more efficient, and what these environmentalists should be for is for more efficiency and not more waste. Yeah.
And of course, what they're interested in is, more control over their anxieties. Like the last guy I talked to, he talked about how he literally lost sleep at night, worried about global warming and environmental catastrophe, and that's what drives him. It's a legitimate. Well, it's not coming from an insincere place. Put it that way.
Well, he
believes that there's going to be catastrophe. It's not about him trying to. So and
well,
state, right?
Yeah. But it's propaganda, He's been exposed to, this guy's 25, let's say, he's been exposed to 20 years of propaganda about the world coming to an end. When I was a kid, I worried about nuclear war because that's what the propaganda was at the time. Be afraid of nuclear power plants, be afraid of nuclear war. You're all going to die. And people get, they sort of, and that's what's been happening with this catastrophist movement that's been going on. Not that I want to focus the whole second thing.
It speaks about how statism is supported, right?
Yes.
I mean, you foment fear. The more fear you can foment, the more power you can get, because the more power people are readily to give you to relieve their anxieties and their fears. So the person that gets the most power seems to be the one that can foment the most fear or bribe the most people at the expense of others.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Well, they're saying that there's this fear that there's this thing that you need to be afraid of, and then only through giving more power to me and the state will you have the solution. That's their answer. Instead of what's happening in a place like Fort McMurray, and like you said, these people who are willing to come to this place, which is sort of this almost subarctic. It's not exactly, Rio or anything like that, this sort of subarctic place, and they're willing to go and do the work that needs to be done to keep civilization going, and they're entrepreneurial, and they care about the environment, they care about the people around them, but they don't need the government. That's the thing, right? They're the ones who are sitting there saying, we can be independent.
And it's a little bit harder to scare this type of people or bribe them, because why do they need bribes? They're doing it. And what do they need to be afraid of? I mean, they came here against all odds. They seem to be comfortable with uncertainty and fear, right? So they're a hard group to control, I think, and so I think my message is going to resonate with them. Actually, I was thinking about having my slogan be "Vote Moen, and all your wildest dreams will come true," or else vote Moen, or else your worst nightmares are going to become a reality.
Yeah.
Those are the two messages you essentially hear, right? I was going to.
Well, I think the thing is that, but this is the message I think resonates as well, though. It's vote for you, and I'll get out of your way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's vote for me, and go and build your life the way you would like to do it. You're not going to make anybody's dreams come true. Like politicians don't make people's dreams come true. What they do, the best they can do is simply make things easier for people in some way by getting out of the way, as far as I'm concerned.
Fundamentally, I have no illusions that I'll even be able to make life that much better for my constituents because, I'll be one voice in Ottawa. I'll be just have a bigger soapbox, really. I'll be rattling chains and challenging the status quo for sure.
Yeah.
And actually we've already seen evidence that I am shaking, causing some concern to status quo politicians.
Excellent.
My meme has circulated the Alberta legislature, and I know a bunch of people that were getting frantic emails. Who is this guy? Where did he come from? One of the local politicians that was expected to run for the Conservative nomination, I found out was complaining that I was out there campaigning and I'm getting all the support already, and I noticed that he never did put his name forward. So the two candidates we're getting now are kind of weaker.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And I've had some insiders actually try to convince me to come over to the Conservative Party, and I can cross the floor maybe when I get into Parliament as a strategy. So there's people are taking note. So I'm not underestimating. I guess I shouldn't underestimate what one person can possibly do if on that stage and on that platform, because it's definitely got some people worried, which tells me that I'm having some effect.
Well, certainly, a lot of people are. I think a lot of people at heart are sort of very libertarian, and they have a lot of common sense. And, that's why they don't, that's why the mainstream media, doesn't really like to talk to us all that much. And, certainly when you look at what happened to Ron Paul during the 2008 and 2012 elections, he was sidelined at every chance possible that they had to sideline him. The Republican establishment sidelined him, the Democrats ignored him, and the mainstream media, to the greatest extent possible, ignored him because they know that his message resonates. And I think that's what's going to happen up where you are too, is that your message is going to resonate. And, there's a real chance for an upset because right now, this is a federal by-election, right? And just, we're coming to the end. So just a little bit about it. It's a federal by-election, and so there's no incumbent running in this election, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's a by-election. Brian Jean resigned unexpectedly back in January. And so, people are just going to be looking at the candidates. They're not going to be looking at the prime minister.
Great.
Right? So this is a real opportunity here to get some votes and get our name out there because come 2015, people are probably going to vote. They're going to be looking at the prime minister more.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people here that are kind of infatuated with Justin Trudeau, for example. And Trudeau's actually coming to town next week. I was thinking about maybe trying to meet with them.
Sure you can. You should. Absolutely.
See if I can get a shot of him holding up one of my T-shirts, just kind of sneak it in there somehow in front of him or something. But,
so what are the websites where we can find out more about your political campaign and yourself?
Sure, yeah. So you can go to votemoen.ca. It's our campaign website. You can follow me on Twitter at Moen_Tim. You can go to our Facebook page, which is, I think, Vote Tim Moen or Tim Moen for Parliament. Either one will get you to the Facebook page.
Yeah.
And, check us out, follow us, and keep appraised. And, you can really help us if, as we come out with content and memes, just circulate them. Blast people like Joe Rogan. And we got Nick Gillespie did a piece on me in Reason because of some supporters, and things kind of snowballed from there. So
excellent.
Any little bit of thing like that can definitely help get the message out there and get put Liberty on the map in Canada.
That's great to hear, Tim. So thanks again for coming on the Better Red Than Dead show, and we'll definitely talk soon.
Great. Thanks, Redmond.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
So that's our show for today. So good day. Good day. Good day.